Do we have a quorum yet?
We have Councilman Carroll and Councilwoman Johnson and the Vice Mayor, so yes.
Okay, so we need one more person, I think, right? Councilmember Hopkins and Ahmed are not in, I believe.
No.
Sorry for the delay. We're waiting for to get a quorum. As soon as we have a quorum, we're going to start.
I'm here.
All
We have
right.
4, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Finally, we can start now.
Oh, you need a code? Code?
Yeah. All right. Sorry for the little delay. We have been waiting for a quorum, and since now we have a quorum, we're going to start the meeting. This is the November Clarkston City Council meeting. It's November 5th, 2020. It's 7:13 p.m. right now, and I call this meeting to order. And I will start with roll call first. If you could say aye whenever I call your name. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkins. think Councilmember Hopkins is running late, so hopefully she will join us soon. Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
All right, and this is Vice Mayor Iyasu. I will go ahead and say the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could all say in your hearts, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have one administrative item, which is approval of minutes from council meeting on 10/6/2020 and 10/27/2020 executive session. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I have a motion.
All right, Councilmember Hassan, you have a motion.
I have a motion to approve minutes for council meeting October 6, 2020, and executive session October 27, 2020.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any amendments or changes or discussion on the minutes? All right, seeing none, I'll call out your names. If you can say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkins. Not here yet. Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is by Mayor Iyasu. I also vote aye, and the minutes have been approved. Next is going to be our reports. I will start with Planning and Zoning report. Ms. Cowie.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I will be very brief this evening. The city is moving productively on all of its projects, the developments that are under construction. East Avenue, Glendale Road, Peachtree on Pond, and the senior living residence. There was one major issue on our morning meditation for our residents, but we've cleared that one up. And on November the 20th is the deadline for proposals for the zoning rewrite services. As of today, we haven't received any proposals, so we're looking forward to receiving those. On November the 17th, the Planning and Zoning Board will meet to discuss the end of the year projects and trainings and proposals and expiring terms. We do have 3 board members' terms that will expire on the December the 31st, 2020, and still there's 1 vacant position that will expire in December the 31st, 2022. And all the DDA, the Clarkston Development Authority board members that have requested training, I have received the confirmation that those trainings are scheduled for December, the 15th and the 17th. And Mr. Vice Mayor, that ends my report.
Thank you, Ms. Cowie. Any questions for Ms. Cowie? All right, thank you again. Since there are no questions, we're gonna go ahead to our city manager's report. Mr. Gomez.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor, and good evening, everyone, and City Council residents, guests, etc. I am Robin Gomez, the Clarkston City Manager. Wanted to mention that I believe is hopefully everybody's aware, and hopefully, if not most, if not all of you and myself participated in the elections that just occurred in the last, well, you could have started voting in October, or voted in October rather, up until 2 days ago. And while the results have not been certified, we will be swearing in a new mayor. And we are proposing to have that at the December 1st work session. But given that our meetings have been Zoom, I am open to suggestions, certainly from anyone on council, or certainly the mayor-elect, or once the election is certified, that we determine how that will occur, where, how, but I just wanted to make note of that the plan is to do that as early as December 1st, or conceivably could happen before, but we do need to have the results certified. I want to certainly thank everybody who went out and voted. it's great to see such a very good turnout, certainly nationwide, statewide, and here in Clarkston. So thank you to everybody for that. So we will have more information on that coming soon. Wanted also to thank everybody who was very patient with the tropical storm that hit a week ago. Well, yeah, a week ago. Seems like it was longer than that. We had some downed trees. We had quite a few residents without power, without even some communication services. I want to thank Public Works and the police department for their help in getting everything restored as quickly and certainly as safely as possible. Our Public Works folks removed three trees from that covered streets, that blocked streets, including one that covered the entire entrance, since there's one way in and one way out from the Lacar condominiums off of Mel Avenue. And we finally did clear on Tuesday the large tree that was laying across Church Street, the 3700 block. And even though there was still we found as we were finishing that there was still a partial live line, but we were, stayed away from it safely, and AT&T and Comcast did whatever they needed to do to their infrastructure. We're still waiting for Georgia Power to secure that line. They've been advised numerous times. Also, I believe power was restored to just about everyone by Friday evening, within approximately 24 to 36 hours of when the peak time of the the winds and rain hit our area. And again, Georgia Power is aware of that. They prioritize, their goal is certainly overall power restoration, but certainly their goal, after safety being their top priority, is to make sure that major thoroughfares and all the major communication services power is working at hospitals, for first responders, nursing facilities, et cetera. So adult daycare facilities, et cetera. So occasionally, I think some residents believe that they're doing little, et cetera, but that's not the case. We don't have any more power or authority over anyone else to either strongly encourage to mandate the utilities to restore service faster than anywhere else. So, but I do appreciate everyone's patience. We did collect most of debris, but for folks who continue to have limbs or debris that they're trimming, please make sure you put that out Sunday, no earlier than sunset, for our collection on Monday, so we can remove as much of the yard waste as possible. On to our Coronavirus Relief Fund, or the CARES Act. We continue with really the main programs that we have had for at least a couple of months, and the rental assistance, mortgage, and utility assistance. We continue to provide that. We've had a much stronger showing in the last week since the changes were made to increase the amounts. We are just under 400,000 in rental assistance that we've distributed, including today's amounts. 527 payments have been made. We've issued almost 30 utility payments and just 6 mortgage payments. So we, again, continue to encourage folks to apply. We will have this available through December the 20th. There's a couple of items in tonight's agenda to discuss other funding, and we will continue to distribute funding as we certainly are. We, so far through today, our distribution or expenditures of our CARES Fund is just under 500,000. So we are, and again, we anticipate the lion's share being for rental. We are going to be likely we have issued to Ethne, or today we are to Ethne Health and to the Family Heritage Foundation, and then certainly the discussions for and tonight's agenda. Just an update regarding the virus and the CARES Fund. Our city operations, we continued to City Hall Annex to be closed to the general public. We are still able to provide city services remotely, electronically via the phone, or even scheduling an appointment for somebody with a very pressing issue. Our city court that reopened back in early September continues, but again, if folks are uncomfortable given the measures that we are taking, the precautions, taking temperatures, ensuring the distancing, of course, cleaning the facilities before and after, we have then rescheduled them further out into the end of the year or possibly even to 2021. And we have resolved quite a few of the cases that had not been heard during the complete shutdown of the city. So we will continue with that, but we do intend to continue to stay closed through the month of November and then look at whether we reopen at least for several days during the week and for several hours beginning in December. As I'd mentioned before, we reopened the parking lot at Milan Park, and we are encouraging obviously folks to walk through there. We still are encouraging everyone to wear a mask when you're out in public, when you're going to be going into a business. Please wear them. If any businesses need masks, or please let us know. We have quite a few. I think many of you are aware we had our kind of the COVID-19 community task force that they've distributed thousands of masks, particularly at apartment complexes. We'll continue with that. And again, the testing continues. We'll hear a little bit more about that later in the meeting, but COVID-19 testing continued. I believe this weekend they are just down the street from where I am at the Clarkston First Baptist Church. On to our construction, the streetscape. I think many of you who drove or walked through Market, East Ponce, the paving was completed last week. Earlier this week, the subcontractors were striping. That's temporary striping of the paved streets. They just about finished all of it. And then in a few weeks, it will be the permanent striping will be completed, which is a much more durable thermoplasting of the striping for the yellow and white lines mainly on East Ponce, North Indian Creek, underneath the right-of-way in Market Street. So we are getting much, much closer to the project's completion. We do have roughly 25 to 30 small outstanding items, but the paving was one of the last remaining large items. Other than the landscaping will come in terms of the trees, the shrubbery that will be going in, and some of the green areas that have been added. And also the bus shelters. We are adding 4 bus shelters, and we are, this week, you may have seen, some of you, that there's one under construction at East Ponce approaching Market, where there is the new MARTA bus pullout. So this, we will continue over the next month with these smaller details, including what will be one of certainly the nicer components of the project, which is the decorative, what I call the decorative street lighting, all the newer black poles that will have banners on them for the holiday season. Those we will be ready to light up hopefully in the next or by Thanksgiving. And that will certainly transform in the overnight East Ponce and Market Street. So we are approaching that end, and we will give an update in early January as to the next projects and what those will look like, the start dates, completion dates of the next projects. Also related to the streetscape, now that the roads have been paved, we really are looking for the public, certainly our residents, but we know we have a lot of people who drive through Clarkston to kind of follow the maintenance of traffic, particularly the speed limits. And just because a road is nicely resurfaced does not provide for somebody to drive 10, 15, 20 miles over the speed limit. And also I noticed a few cars, they must have been confused, I'm not sure, but they were driving on the left side of East Ponce one day when I was in the morning, Saturday morning driving, and they stayed on the on the left side of East Ponce from North Indian Creek almost to Mill Avenue. That was rather bizarre. So our streets are two-way. We do not have any one-way streets, as certainly most of our residents are aware. Our contractor has completed all the repairs needed at Friendship Forest, so the construction is completed. We will be looking to reopen that parking lot here shortly, likely on Monday, and encouraging folks to walk through Friendship Forest. It'll be open, and we're still not opening the restrooms just as Milan Park just yet, but we are hopefully looking to do that in early December. At 40 Oaks, you certainly, due to the tropical storm, the mulch piles have grown, mulch or wood chips, whatever you'd want to call them. So anybody out there who's listening, or any residents or anybody nearby, certainly you're welcome to, as long as you're able to transport it, you're welcome to utilize some of that mulch. Those little mountains have grown quite a bit. So please feel free to use the mulch. As I mentioned last week, we are still, and I've had a discussion with our engineering firm regarding the repair, what likely will end up being repairs to the structure at 40 Oaks, again, combined with the possibility of adding a well at 40 Oaks that will be used certainly for irrigation. In terms of potable, we're still reviewing, and we're going to have a firm give us really their best, they're really their professional estimate and what that would look like, or with a possibility of that, but certainly for irrigation. And we'll be having conversations with, certainly with Global Growers. Those haven't happened yet, but we're looking to do that. Also, Georgia Power had explained to me that they were going to remove the poles and the lights. That has not happened, but I believe now their priorities were shifted due to the storm, but I will find out when they were going to remove the poles and the lights at 40 Oaks Nature Preserve. And we continue with the discussions. Our engineer and I had a discussion with the firm that we are looking for the interpretive signage at all of our parks. Those continue. They hope to have possibly a presentation as early as December the 8th on what the signage may look like. So we're working with all of that. Additionally, not related to 40 Oaks, but related to nature, et cetera, is our recycling. We will be bringing a contract to council at the December 1 work session to what that will look like, and to reinstitute or begin recycling once again, beginning in January of 2021. Will likely be, I may be confusing now that I think about the size of the bins, but it's not going to be the same size container we had before. They will be, I believe they're the 32-gallon containers, so a little bit smaller, and we will provide the education material certainly before proceeding with the recycling beginning in January. Also, we are beginning to prepare our calendar for next year, and certainly this is more for council. If there are any specific dates of any work sessions or meetings or anything, please let me know. But we're hoping to we will provide that to the council as to what our council work session and meetings, what we're proposing for 2021, and then certainly we will have that on our internet site and release that to the public so they are aware. Not expecting any changes to the Tuesday unless council directs otherwise to holding the work sessions and the meetings. We will continue with those, but we will have a date of that, and also a calendar with the proposed city holidays for 2021. And moving along, I wanted to go over our financial revenues expenditure statement, which for those that have a screen should be on your screen now. Through the month of October 31st, we have actually, there are 2 months left in our fiscal year, November and December. So approximately 83% of the way through the year. As you can see in the first page there, what our expenditures are so far, we're roughly 58.8%, 58% of the total budget for fiscal 20. Every department or section of the city is below that in expenditures. As I've stated several times, we held back on particularly capital expenditures, but other expenditures, we've certainly, we haven't incurred very much in travel, training. Most of our training has been electronic. So since March, since we changed our operations to be more remote. So we haven't really had any significant changes from the last couple of months to the current month in our expenditures. Our revenue, we have, as I stated last month, received really a good portion of our property taxes, and I'll get into a little bit more detail on that. You will see that under the summary of key revenues, other taxes, insurance, and penalties, we're nearly at our budget because we did receive our second largest source of revenue, our insurance premium tax, which was about $50,000 more than last year. So, and I believe I may have mentioned that last month, but so our revenues we're at about 58% of what we're expecting. And then the bottom part of the page really are by category, our expenditures where we are, and again, below what we had budgeted. We will have certainly, we hope we may have it by December, probably not. It'll be the first meeting in January, what our revised budget for this current year, which will, mainly, I provided some of that during the budget presentation, what that will look like. And we're still kind of revising that as we go forward. I'll just quickly go through the expenditures by our general departments. This is general administration. Really no significant changes. We may, just as we did last year, we may exceed our attorney fees based on the level of activity that we have had relative to certainly last year and continuing this year, a couple of lawsuits. But most other categories are well below budget. As we proceed through our community action projects, again, we have not spent the majority of this money. As I mentioned last month, I provided the budget for next year, but certainly any suggestions or any additional changes from the council, please let me know. Certainly before we have the next public hearing, December 1st, the sooner the better for fiscal 2021. Continuing down to our buildings and grounds, again, below expenditures, we spent a little bit almost for pest control, just because we did have quite a bit more bugs in a couple of our buildings. In continuing our municipal court, again, our expenditures don't really vary significantly. It's more on the revenue side, as again, we're not collecting nearly the amount of fines that we have in prior years, but our expenditures stay where they have been. We did small equipment because we purchased an additional laptop, and we'll find out if that's part of the coronavirus relief or not. Our police department, again, our largest department, really no significant changes other than we did acquire a little bit more for some of our communications to be able to allow for enhanced communications out in the field, but really no significant changes in terms of our expenditures. They're still within and below our budget for the current year. And our public works in the current year, relative, again, similar. We're overall not exceeding the budget. We're one of the departments that's closest to its expenditure budget, but really, again, no significant changes over the last several months. We are spending a little bit more this year than we had anticipated on landfill fees, but that's because we're collecting a lot more. There was, as I've stated a couple of times, just a lot more trash throughout the city, especially when folks were staying at home, and quite a few still are, and we tend to generate a little bit more when we are at home versus being as we were in our workplaces prior. So no significant changes in our parks as well, other than we have had a few instances of equipment that had to be replaced, a door recently, and some damages that occurred, but overall we're still within our total budget since our parks have been closed for until recently. Our planning and development, again, no significant changes. You'll see the building inspections is up because our building activity is significantly up, but correspondingly that's being covered by the additional revenue that I'll go over in a little bit that we have received this year due to all the projects that Ms. Cowie mentioned that are ongoing, and certainly just a lot more activity than we have had in probably quite a few years in Clarkston, both commercial and residential. Our debt service, really no significant changes either. These are just monthly payments that we make on the listed leases and loans that we've had for our projects. On to our other funds as we get into the capital. Again, we held back on various projects that various equipment that we were going to purchase that we have not. So hence why we are well under budget for the current year. Our SPLOST fund will have a much more detailed explanation when we go through the next set of projects, but really no, again, significant changes from the prior month to this month. And the other funds that we have are federal seizure and city seizure. Again, just some more activity as we've purchased a couple of vehicles out of this fund, but well within the allotted amounts, or really the budget for those expenditures. And similarly with our grant funds, we are no significant changes from the prior year, as well as our coronavirus relief fund. This does not have all the expenditures that I mentioned, because today we wrote about $100,000 worth of checks, or a little bit over that, 114,000. So that's not all reflected in this slide in front of you, because this is for through October 31st. But you can see the related expenditures. These will obviously go up as we look to utilize the entire fund going forward, certainly before December 20th. And moving along, our stormwater fund, again, no significant changes from the prior months, as well as our sanitation or trash. And our affordable housing, we have, that was completely replenished, so we do have the $200,000 balance, but so that's why I chose no expenditures, as it was, although we probably should show them. But and our revenue, here's what I just wanted to cover quickly, is that, as I've stated, we are about 50% of our budget for property taxes. I just circled that number, the 49%. We're if we do not include the third line in this slide, the real property tax for prior year, we are a little bit ahead of the prior year, which we were very surprised. So again, a very positive indicator, but as I've stated many times, we are still uncertain what will happen in 2021. We hope it'll certainly things will improve, the economy and economic conditions and unemployment. The economic conditions will improve, unemployment will go down, more people will find employment, and again, the economy keeps growing, and we're in a much more positive financial state than we have been before. But we are seeing positive collections for property taxes. As I mentioned, our insurance, going down the line, our insurance premium tax, which we budgeted at $921,000, our receipt was $972,000, so just over $50,000 more than budget, which is again surprising but very good. Some of our other revenues, as I've said before, are down, including the work permit ID card, where it's been very minimal since we've been closed. We have not been issuing those permits or provided the background checks that we normally provide. And as I mentioned, our building permits were significantly up given all the activity. We're even considerably above the prior year at this time, but that was somewhat expected, but certainly a very good growth. And just a few other revenues haven't seen significant declines. but there are some where we just didn't have any activity, such as the pool admissions, and certainly the rentals for pavilions and at the Women's Club, as I've said before. We have on this page, again, I circled where we just didn't have any pool admissions as it was closed. You can see the Women's Club reservations very, very small, as well as the background check fees because we had been closed. We do have in our court fees, which are down significantly over the prior year. I just marked one interesting line for the reimbursement for damaged property. Again, we've had property damaged, and fortunately we've been reimbursed for it, and this is just where we record it in case there was a question as to what that was for or what had been happening, but overall we're doing well. Oh, we had 2 vehicles that were damaged for police that we did receive payments.
And the first East Ponce to Leon Brockett.
Right, and we received a payment for a vehicle that damaged a traffic control device at East Ponce, which we have another claim regarding that one. Another traffic control device at that East Ponce and Brockett Road. And then other revenues for some of our other funds, our grant fund, again, no significant changes from the prior month, and our stormwater fund and sanitation fund, which again, similar to the general fund, this is the time of year where we receive the lion's share of the revenues. And you can see we're even ahead of the prior year. And just a couple of more to our SPLOST fund. We did receive our most recent distribution on Friday, and we received just over 155,000. So for the year, we're still below what we were last year, but not significantly. We're about 9% below the prior year. So again, another positive indicator of our economic conditions, but still we don't know exactly what next year will hold. And then our last couple of revenues here in our federal seizure, where we've had a few deposits made for some of the work that's been done, nothing in our city seizure. And then we're showing just the coronavirus relief fund. So that's our revenues and expenditures through October the 31st. We will certainly have a much more comprehensive, if not at the December 8th council meeting, certainly at the January 5th, where we do have to bring forth, hopefully at that time, our amendments for this current year's budget that, as I've stated before, we will, obviously our revenue is not going to be, particularly for the general fund, will not, we would be very surprised if it was close to the budgeted amount, but we're likely looking at under 6 million for the general fund revenue, but that remains to be seen. And lastly, I wanted just to touch on, recently we've had residents who've expressed concerns regarding housing, and we've had quite a few calls from folks in apartment complexes. We've met with some of the apartment complexes. We've discussed the concerns that have come to us. The complexes are aware, but it appears to me that it's really nothing new. It's not a very large issue, but it is something that we're keeping an eye on, and certainly our code compliance officer does respond to all the calls and then communicates with our complexes, with their management staff, and addresses the issues that need to be addressed. So we're mindful for that. Also, we want to just reiterate, now that we are nearing the completion, I meant to say this during the construction streetscape update, we really do need asking for everyone's help. When you happen to be out and about, if you see if you see lots of trash or just something that doesn't look right with the new construction, or please let us know. We're finding that now that particularly Market Street looks a lot better, and it will even look better when we have the landscaping in. We're seeing where folks are still either leaving additional trash, or I'm thinking the wind is blowing it, or something else. Please let us know. We try to keep everything looking clean or actually clean, but now that we've spent literally a few $1 million on enhancing the city, it is incumbent that we all together make sure that it does stay as clean and tidy as it possibly can. But please let us know of anything needing attention. And Mr. Vice Mayor and Council, that concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions or comments that anyone may have.
Thank you. I just want to quickly ask you, since we are at 58% of our revenue, should we be concerned about this?
Not yet. We are estimating that we will be fine toward the end, especially once we receive our the remainder of our property taxes, as well as one of the other larger revenues that our third largest revenue, the Georgia Power franchise fees. We typically receive that in February for this current year. We are hopeful that we will be fine. Again, we are going to, as I mentioned during the budget presentation, we are looking at our budget for the current year in the general fund to be probably around 5.8 million, maybe a little bit less. And if our revenues are below that, then we'll make the adjustments that we need to make so that we do have a balance, that we finish the year on a balanced note.
Is there any question for our city manager from the council? All right, see none. I'm going to go ahead and ask if there is any city attorney's report. Mr. Quinn.
Are you there, Stephen?
All right. Well, while we are awaiting for
Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes,
Hello,
sir.
I'm sorry, I was muted, but now I'm here. Glad to be here this evening, but I do not have any report at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. Council remarks. I will start with Councilmember Carroll.
Sorry, this is
Councilmember
Carroll. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to first of all thank everyone who participated in the election. I want to thank first of all the voters who came out and voted, and I also want to thank Tracy Ashby for calculating the votes, and I appreciate all the poll workers and everyone that helped work in the election this year. And then I also want to congratulate Beverly Burks on what is her election as the new Clarkston mayor. And I'm excited to work with her. I worked with her in the council, excited to work with her again. I also want to thank YT Bell for taking the opportunity to run for democracy. Obviously, you need multiple candidates for each office. I appreciate YT running as well. And I'm just looking forward to hopefully wrapping up this year strong.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Hassan.
I have no remarks.
Thank you, Councilmember Hassan. Councilmember Hopkins. All right. I guess she hasn't joined us yet. Councilmember Johnson.
Yes, I would just like to thank the city of Clarkston, our city manager, as well as our vice mayor for showing respects from the city of Clarkston. Me and Vice Mayor Owett went to a funeral on Saturday for a young man that actually volunteered during our food drives. We were able to give him a plaque for his dedication and service. So I want to thank the city manager, the city, as well as Owett for actually attending this funeral service with me. But the young man diligently worked that food distribution and he didn't feel that it was robbery. So, and I wanted to just let you guys know that on October the 17th, we had our first candlelight visual and remembrance of domestic violence awareness victims, survivors, and families. It was a great success. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. And on the mayor's report, I just want to report a few things. The month of October was really super busy. I will start with first saying I want to congratulate both the candidates who run for mayor, and I want to congratulate also particularly former council member, now our new mayor-elect, Beverly Burks, for her campaign and winning, and looking forward to be working with her as well. And I want to also thank the opportunity that I had on serving on acting on duties of the mayor since March for the last 10 months. And it's been great serving the community in on that role. And I also want to report first on October 2nd, me along with Chief Hudson and also the city manager, we had a meeting with a resident regarding noise concerns. And October 5th, I attended a meeting organized by Imam Salah on policing and substance abuse. On October 11th, I attended our city police Faith and Blues Day that was held at Market Street. On October 15th, I attended Early Learning Task Force meeting, and the same day, and also October 16th, I attended a sustainability conference that was held virtually. On October 17th, I also attended the candlelight vigil. I want to thank Councilmember Johnson for coordinating on that. And October 21st, I attended Mayor's Association, the Metro Atlanta Mayor's Association meeting. And on October 23rd, I also attended mayor's meeting with Commissioner Bradshaw that included mayors here in the district. On October 25th, I was able to, along the city manager, we welcomed the BBC delegation that was covering the elections, and they were able to talk to several members of the community who spoke in different languages, including Swahili, Somali. I spoke in Tigrinya, and also there were a couple of speakers who spoke both in English at the same time, also in French. There was one first-time voter that also was interviewed, and it was held at the Women's Club. I want to thank the city manager for bringing refreshments and staying with us the whole time. On October 31st, I also attended the funeral of Tavarius, the young man that Councilmember Johnson was mentioning, who actually was active in volunteering here in Clarkston, the food drives, and it was sad that he died at the age of 25, but he was very motivated in supporting the food drives here in Clarkston. And I also just want to remind, or I just want to bring out to the attention of the city manager on the status of the planting of the pollinator garden and the open field in Friendship Forest. And I also am curious about the status of the workforce development program that we were supposed. It's been a month now, and I really feel we are running out of time. And that's my report. Thank you. The next is going to be public comments, and I will read out the public comments policies. Any member of the public may address the council during the time allotted for public comment. Each attendee will be allowed 3 minutes for comments at the discretion of the presiding officer. The public comment period will be limited to 40 minutes and is not the time for dialogue. If your public comment contains a series of questions, please submit those to the city clerk in writing. This will facilitate follow-up by the council or staff. The city council desires to allow an opportunity for public comment. However, the business of the city must proceed in an orderly and timely manner. Now, if you could raise your hand, or if the city manager have a list of the names of people who actually registered to make public comments, this is the right time.
Mr. Vice Mayor, this is Robin, and we do have a list of folks that did sign up. So we'll recognize the first individual is Mr. Brian Medford. Mr. Medford, you have 3 minutes.
Oh, wow. Good. We have a list of people. Excellent. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm commenting on the last agenda item of the evening. I would like to congratulate Clarkston on the new monument to inaction and apathy that will be erected at Church Street in 285. Had we actually begun the professional zoning review process last year, or even at the beginning of this year, we wouldn't be in the situation we are now. The citizens loudly demanded a professional zoning review last year. It was even put in the budget for this year. And while the city drug their feet on the zoning review, there's still plenty of time to make penny ante zoning changes for special cases. Some of our council people even blew off the review as being something not to worry about for a year or even more down the road. But here we are, a whip-smart zoning attorney drove a billboard straight through our outdated zoning code like a knife through butter. Do we need to wait for a smart housing developer to smell blood in the water and do the same thing? Well, I know certain portions of the zoning review process are now in motion. I suggest that the council step up and finally make it a priority. So let this billboard stand as a shining monument to our failings to deal with the zoning review in a timely manner. I also stand in opposition to the other zoning change being proposed tonight for the laundry. Stop making little zoning changes. Let's get everything done. On the flip side of that, I'd like to thank Robin and everybody in the City Public Works for cleaning up the city, being out here, boots on the ground, getting stuff done, overseeing stuff getting cut up. Much appreciated. And thank you very much for the cityscaping being done. The removal of Mount Mel at the railroad crossing over here has been greatly helped the bottom of my car. Don't bang on it anymore. And the city is now looking great. So thank you very much, everybody in the city and the city employees for all their hard work. That is all. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Our next speaker.
Mr. Bennett Akandam. Mr. Akandam, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Mr. Bennett? All right.
He's in the meeting and I unmuted him. There he is.
I want to thank the city for the program, the after school and child care program that we put in last meeting. And I really appreciate the city proving that. And not only that, we have been bombarded with so many families showing interest, getting their kids to a public place where they can help with the after school program. And this is not a new thing to us since we've been doing it for about 19 years now in Clarkston. So, and I have some people that are on standby. I usually don't speak much. I have some people that are on standby in the meeting that can comment on that, since they're the one really on the forefront of the running the day-to-day operations. Heidi, are you here? Pupu, are you here? Are you in the meeting?
Yes, but I will recognize them when it's their. Well, I guess we can have them speak now, but there's a list that we have, and they'll be recognized when their time comes up.
Okay, so we have been doing it, and we're looking forward to continuing serving the community in serving the young people that we have been serving. This is just an added sort of recognition for what we have been doing in the city all these many years, for 19 years now. So I really appreciate what the city is doing, and improving these kids, because they really need help, these young people. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, the members of the city council. I sure appreciate this, and thank you so much for giving us an opportunity to work with our young people. That's the end.
Thanks, sir.
Next, we have Kathleen Connors. Kathleen Connors. You have
Yes,
3
I'm here.
minutes.
Thank you. So I'm speaking tonight about a bright spot and a dark spot. The bright spot is that for those of you who may not be aware of it, several years ago, the Georgia Refugee Health and Mental Health, the Well Refugee Center, created a partnership with the City of Clarkston and the organization Am Yisrael Chai. Am Yisrael Chai is dedicated to planting 6 million daffodils around the world to commemorate children who were killed in the Holocaust. And the partnership that we created with them in the city was to establish Clarkston as the city of daffodils. And every year, the Am Yisrael Chai donates daffodil bulbs to the city of Clarkston to plant in honor of all of the children of all of our refugee and immigrant communities who have been victims of war or genocide, and the children that we've lost and the children that we still have. So it's a great celebration of resilience and hope and our commitment to children. So Am Yisrael Chai is ready to donate 2,500 daffodil bulbs to the city again, and we've contacted the city and asked for the address to ship the bulbs to, and we look forward to seeing those being planted, hopefully along the railroad tracks where plantings have already come. So next year you'll see our old plantings, which are at the City Hall Annex, the library, the community center, different locations along the bike path and the railroad tracks. And it's going to be a great new year for adding more beauty to Clarkston, as well as celebrating our children. So that's on the positive note. And on the more challenging note, I'm here to appeal for help. The Well Refugee Center has been temporarily closed. Well, I hope it's temporary. Has been closed by the city of Clarkston. We have been trying to submit a business license application since 2016, but we have never succeeded in having one approved. So we have recently submitted one again, and it has not been approved.
You have 30 seconds.
We're seeking guidance from the city, but have not received it. Anybody who can give us help in understanding how to fill out the business license application for a nonprofit, please call me at 770-354-4989. And for the interest of the refugees we serve, especially during open enrollment, where we enroll over 1,000 refugees a year in their only access to health care, we hope that we can work with the city in a cooperative way to get the center open again. And thank you all so much. Have a good evening.
Leslie Sloan. Leslie Sloan, you have
Yes,
3 minutes.
Mr. Gomez.
Yes.
I'm here on behalf of the program that Dr. Connor was just talking about, the Georgia Refugee Health and Mental Health Program. It's a wonderful program. They provide a whole range of services to refugees and immigrants, many, if not most of whom live in Clarkston. She mentioned that the open enrollment program, this just started, and it's a program that we use to help refugees and immigrants register for Obamacare. They're not sophisticated, the ones who come to us, enough to do that on their own. And closing the center at this critical time jeopardizes their health because if they don't have insurance, a great number of them can't afford medical care or prescriptions to pay cash for it themselves. So I'm also putting my voice behind asking you to reopen the center, at least through open enrollment, while some procedural issues are being worked out between Dr. Connors and the city.
Cameron Kilberg. Cameron.
Yes.
Kilberg.
I'm here. Thank you. I'm Cameron Kilberg. I'm the Government Affairs Principal with GoPuff. GoPuff is a new business that just opened up in Clarkston, and I just want to take this time to introduce myself and GoPuff. Normally, we would actually come to Clarkston and do this in person, but obviously this is where we are this day and age. As an introduction, GoPuff is your go-to solution for immediate everyday needs. We fulfill customer orders of cleaning and home products to over-the-counter medications to food and drinks. They come directly to your house within approximately a 30-minute time frame. GoPuff is open until 1 a.m. here in Clarkston, so we can bring you all what you need when you need it most. You will notice that we will be delivering alcohol, beer and wine in other cities in Georgia, and we do throughout the US. Today, we do not do that in Clarkston, but if there's ever an interest, we're obviously happy to discuss that with you all. In closing, I just want to say GoPuff is really proud to be part of the Clarkston community. We understand how incredibly challenging this time has been for so many during this last year, and we are happy that we can be part of a solution for so many to get needed products directly to their doors. And we look forward to staying in Clarkston for years to come and throughout better times, which we know the future will bring. So we want to thank you and have a great evening, and we look forward to working with you all in the future.
Angela Moore. Angela Moore.
I'm here.
Go ahead, Angela Moore.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm here on behalf of the request for funds from the CARES Act for the 2 different child care centers here in Clarkston. I think Ms. Roberta is going to be speaking more about that, but I simply want to thank you in advance for considering the request for funds to help the child care centers out, because we have lots of families who are in need of child care and they can't afford it right now because of various situations, lack of jobs, trying to find jobs, all kinds of situations. I actually had a family today to come who had a small child and they have no money at all. And unfortunately, we can't provide free scholarship for them because we still have to pay the bills. I actually had a family last week who had to drop out, take 2 children out of school because they don't have funds. So thank you in advance for the providing the scholarship funding, the funding through the grant, through the CARES Act for the 2 child care centers here in Clarkston. We appreciate you.
Roberta Malavenda.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yes, good evening. I'd like to speak in favor of the proposal to provide CARES Act funding for child care centers in Clarkston. We're specifically asking for funding for Early Learning Scholars, which is located on Montreal at Clarkston Industrial Way and Clarkston First Baptist Academy. 2 points. We're asking for scholarships, 40 scholarships for childcare for families who are, because of COVID hardships, or they're essential workers, or they're starting new jobs, in order to fund childcare so that they can continue work or look for work. And 2, we're looking for funding to provide them with language assistance for those that don't know how to understand the process of looking and finding for childcare. And 3rd, funding for supplies and equipment that are needed by the child care centers so that they can maintain health and safety environments for the children, the teachers, and the families, particularly masks, sanitizers, cleaning, curriculum materials, and food. This has caused really undue hardship for the child care centers to operate. It's very expensive, and yet they are open and available and trying to provide the safest, best child care for children in this area. And thank you for our consideration of our request.
Pue. Please proceed.
Hello, everyone. My name is Poo Pui. I would like to share how Family Heritage Foundation After School program has helped me do well in school and how it's also helping other children today. I attended the Family Heritage Foundation at the age of 5 when I first came to America. I barely knew a word in English. Now I have graduated high school and is working for the Family Heritage. I am so grateful that Family Heritage was there when I first started school. I would not be where I am with their consistent help. Mr. Bennett and Miss Edon are amazing, and I am so thankful they created the after-school program. They saw something within me from the start when I didn't see anything. They taught me that it takes hard work and an effort to accomplish anything. They challenged me when I didn't want to be challenged. Their positive influence and moral guidance assured me to do better. They gave it their all to each and every kid that attended the program. We're asking to open 4 days a week because now, more than ever, kids need tutoring. They have never experienced online schooling. It is so easy for them to get off track. They struggle to find assignments online. In our after-school program, we tutor kids from first grade all the way to high school. We make sure we have all their school teachers' phone number. We make sure they stay on track. Before the kids came to our program, they had missing assignments and some were already failing. We really need to open 4 days a week. There are many children who could use assistance with virtual learning. Thank you.
Do we have any more speakers, Mr. Gomez?
I'm sorry, Ansley Clements?
Yes, I'm here.
Please proceed. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, guys. I just want to thank you again, first of all, for the work that you're doing to just improve the community and make it beautiful. I'm raising an issue tonight that I think has kind of gone under the radar. I live in Clarkston Townhomes on West Hill Street, and our apartment complex is in a flood zone, and it actually flooded twice last month in October, the first being October 11th, the second October 24th. My car sustained water damage, and about 10 of my neighbors' cars, and then some of the apartments as well, were also flooded, and a few of those were totaled. So I've spoken to the property manager today, who said that the owner has, from what I know, has attempted to reach the city to fix the path of water drainage that goes behind the apartments. According to him, this has been an ongoing problem with heavy rains for a really long time. Yet I never received any notification that I was living in a flood zone, and I'm pretty sure my neighbors haven't either. So I'm just here to kind of raise the question to what kind of assistance the city can provide to my neighbors who've been most affected, and what kind of process can be put in place to ensure this doesn't happen in the future. From what I understand, there's been multiple property losses in this complex since 2005, and it's the city's responsibility to manage flood risk by ensuring proper drainage systems, as well as people being notified when they're living in flood zones. So I just wanted to bring this up to, one, ask like how the city is able to help with that, and then two, how we can fix the problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Cautious, Ken Cautious?
Yes, my name is Ken Cautious. I'm calling, speaking on behalf of Punts Sports Lounge. In regards to the Clean Air Act, I appreciate the consideration of allowing hookah to be served at an earlier time. I wear a few different hats at the lounge, one being manager and the other being head of security. And I have the unique opportunity of being able to communicate with a lot of our customers. And that's something that a lot of people don't be able to do, but being able to communicate with the customers, I get a chance to find out that a lot of our customers come from other cities and other parts of Atlanta. And many tell me that they didn't even know about Clarkston or where Clarkston, that it existed. I know this to be true because I'm not a native of Georgia myself. And before working at Punts, I didn't know about Clarkston either. And so when people come to our facility, they have a great time. It allows them to be able to come out and enjoy themselves, and they tell other people about Clarkston, and there's more money coming into the city. Also, from the security standpoint, it gives people in Clarkston something to do. And when you don't have anything to do, people tend to get in trouble. We have great security over there. We have the police department. We have 3 security guards in the facility at all times. And so between the times that we're open, there's less people in that area out causing mischief. And so I just like that, wanted to add my comment, and thank you for my time.
Thank you.
Mr. Tesfa Mariam, I think that's Jimmy.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity that city provided us to have a business, and did for us and been through, and we are thankful for everything that you guys do. Thank you.
We have Etse, E-T-S-E, Adgo, Etse Adgo. Don't see anybody with that. We have Salam Begara. Michael.
We have Salam.
No, they're not. They were on the call earlier, not anymore. And Michael Gebra Medhin. We have a Michael.
Yeah. This is Michael. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to thank the council for giving me the chance. I would like to talk about Pond Sport Lounge, one of a good sport lounge in the Clarkston area. I've been a customer over there for about, 3 years, 4 years now. 2 years, I guess. It's been a good place for locals to hang out, have fun, chill. And it's a great sports bar for a Clarkston area community. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
And the last, Tara Armstrong.
Can you hear me? I'm here.
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you all for giving me this opportunity to speak. I am speaking on behalf of the child care centers, the 2 child care centers in Clarkston. First of all, I want to thank Roberta for being a strong advocate for the children and the child care centers in Clarkston. She has been in the city of Clarkston working on our behalf for many years. I've been there for 21 years and I've known her all that time, and I want to thank her for this opportunity and making us aware of the funding that's available. We want to thank the city officials for approving the funding. Truly, for the daycares, it's hard when you have low enrollment because of the virus. We're dealing with extra, going above and beyond the cleaning, and families that need services because they're going back to work, but yet they can't afford it. So this funding would really help out the many families and the 2 centers in doing what we have to do to meet our requirements per state guidelines. Thank you.
Thanks.
Those were all the speakers we had sign up, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez. Before I start with there's no old business, but before I start with our new business, Mr. Gomez, I don't see the 3 agenda items that were added at the last city council meeting, at the last meeting.
Right.
The one that
was our understanding. Those were ready. Those were, essentially good to proceed with those 3 items.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just mention them so that we can, it's just 3 items. One was for connectivity, for food, and also the after school virtual learning assistance program. So I will add them as G7, and we'll deal with them as one agenda item.
Mr. Vice Mayor, the reason they're not in here is because they were already on our previously approved list of coronavirus relief funds that we can utilize for those purposes. That's why the discussion last Tuesday at the work session was that we could just proceed, and we are proceeding with those. But you're welcome to have a discussion, but that's the reason.
Yeah, I got you. So we will just have a discussion. That's fine. All right. And then we're going to start with G1, which is award the Bell Street, the Atlanta area school for the deaf stormwater project. The water bid for the lowest bidder, which is Leach Landscaping. And I would like to recognize our city manager, Robin Gomez, for that.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor and Council. This is the item, as we discussed over a week ago, that we are requesting approval to issue the project to the low bidder, Leach Landscaping Inc. in the amount of $419,474 to complete the stormwater improvement project on DeBell Street in the Atlanta Area School for the Deaf. We have had several prior items related to this stormwater improvement project, specifically approving agreements with two other entities that are providing funding toward the project: the Georgia State Department of Education and Majestic Indian Creek LLC, the owner of the adjacent apartment complex, Indian Creek Apartments. So the cost to the city out of the city's stormwater fund, again, not general fund, but out of the stormwater fee that properties pay, is $229,474. Department of Education, $150,000, and Majestic Indian Creek at $40,000. We do recommend that the council approve awarding the low bid to Leach Landscaping Inc. And I believe Mr. Kaiser is also on the line if there are any questions or anything else to add by Mr. Kaiser, but I think he provided good input last time.
Yes, thank you. And we did have a pretty thorough discussion on all these agenda items at the work session. And our understanding was that this was the lowest bid that we received, and we are good to proceed with this amount, I believe. Although it was higher than we expected, I was satisfied to the point that this is the best offer that we received, and considering the fact that the highest was over $1 million. So I think that this is good to go. Are there any questions from the council on this one? Any discussion? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
I motion to award to Bell Street Atlanta Area School of the Deaf Stormwater Improvement Project to the lowest bidder, presented by Leach Landscaping, in the amount of $419,474.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
A second.
Is that all right? Thank you, Councilmember Hassan. So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussions on this? All right, seeing none, we're going to go ahead and vote on this. I will call out your name. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkins. I think she is not up. She's not present today. Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And I also vote aye. This is Vice Mayor Yasu. I vote aye, and this motion is adopted. Our next agenda item is G2, which is approve extending the sunset clause of the Clean Indoor Air Act to certain grandfathered businesses. This has been introduced by me and Councilmember Carroll. I just want to give a little background on this. If we recall that on August 4th, 2016, the Clarkston City Council passed the Clean Air Ordinance, and this was amended in April 3rd, 2018, and we included permitting requirements for certain businesses, and we strongly believe that this was a good act. It was a good ordinance. It helped the public in protecting our public from secondhand smokes, and however, we were concerned that this will create some hardship to certain businesses that were competing with similar businesses that are not subject to strict no smoking regulations at the unincorporated DeKalb areas, and particularly this included a few restaurants that were grandfathered, and also one adult entertainment place. And there are some new additions that we are adding to the ordinance, requirements for the businesses to put in on their door that they are only for 21 and up only, plus the fact that they will put on their sign that says smoking is not good for your health, and we will also require them that nobody under 18 will be allowed at any time at the establishments, and if the owner is convicted with any violation, that these permits could be revoked at any time by the city manager, and they will have to pay $1,000, particularly the restaurant, they have to pay $1,000 to renew their permits. Currently, starting at 2018, there were 3 businesses that took advantage of it and applied. However, one of the businesses did not continue the license, so it was dropped, and we have currently 2 businesses that are current with their permitting requirements. Is there anything you want to add, Councilmember Carroll?
I think you covered it. Hopefully this will put this issue to bed. I think some of the citizens commented at the last meeting that we won't have to go back and keep on redoing extensions, which I think is not good for the businesses or the citizens to have uncertainty about what businesses can or can't stay in business.
I agree. Thank you, Councilmember Carroll. Are there any questions from the council on this agenda item or discussion? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on this agenda item.
I move that we approve the ordinance amendment grandfathering those certain establishments.
And I second that. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this agenda item? All right, see none, I will call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll?
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan?
Aye.
Councilmember Hopkins? She's not with us again, I think. Councilmember Johnson?
Nay.
And this is Vice Mayor Iyasu. I also vote aye, and this motion carries. Our next agenda item is G3, which is to approve Providing CARES Act, Corona Relief Funding for continued COVID-19 testing. As the city manager was mentioning earlier, that the city has been helping with mostly with rental assistance, with mortgage assistance and utility assistance, but we want to also extend the assistance to for testing and other corona related expenses to particularly to healthcare providers here in Clarkston. We are very thankful to the so many nonprofit, mostly organizations that has been helping with testing in the last several months since we've been facing the pandemic. And there were some requests that were provided to this council, and we discussed this thoroughly at the council meeting. There were several amounts that were asked. That one of them includes Aetna Health for amount of $19,000. And there was a request by also CORE and also IRC. From the conversations we had with the council at the last work session, there was some consensus that we would be definitely okay with approving the amount for helping with testing for Aetna's request, and for accounting purposes, we will add 1,000 to it, and it will be $20,000, and plus we will discuss that we also could consider adding $40,000 for testing for CORE, and another $40,000 for IRC that would be used for groceries expenses for food related for those who are tested positive. I think there was a little consensus around those. I have one question though. Do we have any representative from these organizations on the line, Mr. Gomez?
Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor, we have Jonathan Golden. And
anybody particular from Aetna?
No, no, not from Aetna. I think
because I do have a little concern. I know this is gonna be. So I had a very long conversation with our city attorney, and he has prepared an agreement with this, which is going to be a memorandum of understanding with each organization that we are going to be working with, and they will have to sign that memorandum of understanding before any funds are disbursed to them. And I would like to refer to the city attorney first and explain that process.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Right. Well, so the memorandum of understanding, the process there is pretty straightforward. It's basically a reimbursement system. And so it would be a memorandum the city manager could sign indicating how much money the city council had approved for this particular purpose. And then the entity would come back with the receipts that show the value of the services or the goods that they provided to the cause. We put in there in keeping with what DeKalb County had done, and in response to the request for money for administration of these programs, we put in 20% for administration would be approved. And it's basically a system where as soon as you show the receipts, that the city will pay you with CARES funds.
Thank you so much, Mr. Quinn. And the reason I was wondering if we have anybody from Aetna is because on their letter, they did mention that they would like to use that funding for a nurse for 6 months, which is beyond the CARES Act funding limit, unless there is a deferral by the federal government, which I really doubt that will happen. So I think I wish there were somebody on the line that would have told them, but if not, I think if the council is okay with it, we would definitely go ahead and approve up to $20,000 for Aetna, and they will have to obviously provide us with receipts, and they will have to sign the MOU as well. And for IRC, we are recommending, I am personally recommending that we give them for the food and groceries that they asked, and I am considering $40,000 and $40,000 for core for testing the same way as ethnic health, and the total will be $100,000 for the testing and food assistance by these three organizations. Is there any other recommendation or discussion on this from the council? All right. If there is none, go ahead, sir, Councilmember Hassan. You're muted, sir. Oh, can you unmute him, Mr. Gomez? All right, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I'm just want to make sure, that the 40, I mean, the $100,000 that we discussed last time as it is, or what? Could you explain
So
that?
it's going to be $100,000 that will be divided between these three organizations. So 20,000 would be up to 20,000 for ethne, up to 40,000 for IRC, and another 40,000 for core. And the one that IRC asked, that was for food assistance for the people who were tested positive and their families. They were asking about $33,000 plus some administration costs. So I just thought maybe we could increase it up to $40,000 for groceries assistance. And since we are already providing the rental assistance and mortgage assistance and also utility payment assistance, I took out that number from their groceries expense that they had on the proposal. And so that would be $40,000 for food, which is groceries, and $40,000 for testing for core, and $20,000 up to $20,000 for ethnic health. And each organization will have to obviously sign that MOU, and they will have to provide receipts every time, and they will be reimbursed by the city manager if they are in line with the requirements of the CARES Act funding.
All right, that's fine.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from the council? All right. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
This is Jonathan from CORE. Can we have 5 minutes to share something with this budget and a challenge that we are facing?
Absolutely. Go ahead, sir.
Great. Thank you. Robin, is it possible for me to share my screen to show this budget?
Yes.
If not, happy to do it verbally as well.
If I could find your name.
And then I also have Kari on the line who will give a quick update. You can unmute that.
You could go ahead and start, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, because it's not letting me share anything.
Well then, so this is Jonathan Golden, Georgia Area Manager from CORE. I also have our Clarkston Program Manager, Kari, as well. We wanted to share a quick update on the current testing numbers in Clarkston. This should take a minute or so. Then I'll share a, first of all, thank you for the continued funding and the challenge we're facing as well. It may become a request for some reallocation. So Kari, first of all, will you just share a 1-minute update on the testing that has been done in Clarkston?
Yes, thank you all for having us. So far in Clarkston, we've created a diverse team of employees that are from the Clarkston area, and they speak more than 20 languages. We've so far to this date, we've tested 2,752 people, and this has occurred over the past 2 months in September and October. Our testing dates are Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We've received about an 8 to 9% average percent positive rate in the community, and this has been consistent from our 9 locations that we've tested at in the Clarkston area. So our team has been able to create, more confidence, and with the community members in Clarkston, we've been able to, they come to a testing site, and we have all the 20 languages on site. They can register on site or pre-register, and we found that by registering on site and allowing our staff to be so diverse has created more confidence within the community. There's been so many unique stories of community members coming up and asking what's going on. And there's a Burmese woman and her family, and we were able to get a Burmese staff member over and explain the COVID testing to her and educate her on COVID, and she came and got tested. So our team not only does the testing and educates the community members that come, but also they serve as interpreters for DeKalb County Board of Health for the call center and for positive case investigation, as well as we have 2 resource coordinators on site working with the IRC and DeKalb County Board of Health to connect the positive patients to housing assistance and food and groceries to ensure that they and their family can have the resources they need to safely quarantine throughout this period.
Great. Thank you, Kari, for sharing that update. So what I want to share is, first of all, thank you all for the $80,000 released between CORE and IRC for this initiative. 40K does go to IRC's food distribution program, and then 40K we understand for CORE operational funds. Based on the initial budget, CORE's operational funds for 1 month are $79,000, and we see testing as the trigger to bring positive individuals in, know that they're positive, resource coordinate, and then ultimately allow IRC to provide the resources. So for CORE to operate for the remaining month or so, we will need that $79,000 for a month. The $40,000 covers about half of it. IRC has since been willing, due to the 50% funding amount, to redirect their 40K funding towards CORE operations. CORE is operationally covered to host testing events for 1 full month. IRC has then actually worked with a DeKalb County commissioner and has received funding to cover housing assistance as well as some extra for food assistance, which can cover that as well. So the request would be that the funding allocated to IRC is able to be used by CORE for 1 full month at 100% support of testing operations. Then IRC can use funding from a different pot to achieve the same goal for resource coordination. I'm happy to follow up with an email and a statement from IRC stating this as well.
Thank you, sir. And I do recall on your initial proposals that you did include some of the funding was going to be used for contact tracing, and there was a feeling from the council that although it is important to do, we just felt that contact tracing at this point would not be viable, particularly since we're going to be, this will involve people who will be outside the city limit, and I really am not sure. So the council felt that we would certainly be willing to pay. We certainly could also add more as we go next month's December council meeting, and that will be for testing, but not for contact tracing for the next coming month and a half, I guess.
Yes, that's understood. And the model we do now is we have the same staff will test 3 days a week and then provide translation for contact tracing 2 days a week. So Robin just pulled up the budget. If you look at this, we don't have contact tracing specific staff. We did say in the explanation that 2 to 3 days a week of their time is spent doing that operation. If it is of the city's interest to provide sole testing, we can even look at testing operations 5 to 6 days a week with the current staff and not have 2 days a week of translation and contact tracing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And any other questions from the council to the representatives of CORE and IRC? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion on this. Yeah, or you know what? I go ahead and I move that we approve CARES Act funding in the amount of up to $20,000 for ethnic health, up to $40,000 for IRC, and up to $40,000 for CORE, in the total amount of $100,000 for testing, COVID-19 testing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this agenda item? I just want to state again that I am very thankful to Ethne, CORE, IRC, and all the other organizations that are helping us with this very urgently needed support, and we're really looking forward to support you partly as well and make sure we also help you in your efforts. If there are no other discussion or comments, I will go ahead. I think we have a motion and a second. I will call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan. Councilmember Hassan. I'm not sure if he's on the line. Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is Vice Mayor Yasu. I also vote aye, and the motion carries. I'm not sure if Councilmember Hassan, I'll consider him abstain. Yeah. Okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
I'm here, but I'm muted.
I got you. You're good. So we got your vote as well. Thank you, Councilmember Hassan. You got it. And the motion is adopted. Our next agenda item is G3, approve providing CARES Act coronavirus relief funding. Oh, I'm sorry, we just did that. G4, which is approve providing CARES Act corona relief funding for child care centers in Clarkston. And this is also being brought to you by me and Councilmember Carroll. We have also received a request for assistance with child care centers, and we discussed this thoroughly at the previous City Council work session. So far, we have a request in the amount of $93,590. This will be, the proposal includes supplies and equipment, plus scholarship and support for families with various services or equipment, program technical assistance, data collection and reporting. And as we just heard from our city attorney, this will be also be the same thing. Each organization will have to sign the MOU, and they will be reimbursed. The only thing is, I was a bit concerned about these organizations, since they are small organizations and they have a smaller cash flow. I'm not exactly sure how we can handle that, but I would be willing to consider anything that the city council would recommend. But I certainly agree that we need to, especially the scholarship programs is very great. So we could help up to 40 families with childcare, providing scholarship for them and assisting these centers to continue serving our community. Is there any question from the council or discussion on this? And I would like to recognize Roberta, if you are on the line, if you want to give us more details on this.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Roberta.
Muted. Can you
Yeah,
hear
you're
me?
not. I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I don't really have anything to say except that we're thankful for the support, and we're, you know, agree of all the organizations with the city attorney and the city manager figure out how to do the reimbursement in accordance with the county procedures.
Thank you. And as the city attorney mentioned, up to 20% of the funding could be used for technical assistance, data collection, and reporting, just like you have it on number 3. I want to thank you for bringing this to our attention, and I really want to thank the child care centers for providing this essential service to the community. And I will entertain a motion on this agenda item.
I motion to approve Providing CARES Act coronavirus relief funds to child care centers in Clarkston. And do you need me to give these amounts? No.
Yeah, just the total.
And the total amount of, it's not on here.
Up to 93,590.
Okay, up to 93,500.
90.
90.
Yeah,
Oh, I see it.
$590.
$93,590. I see it. Sorry.
And we have a second by Councilmember Hassan, I believe.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this agenda item? All right. And I just want to encourage our city manager to be flexible as he can on working with these different organizations, and that's pretty much what I want to say. And we have a motion and a second. I'll call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is Vice Mayor Yasu. I also vote aye. This motion has been adopted. Our next agenda item is G5, amend Appendix A of the City Code of Ordinance, Article 6, zoning district standards to allow self-service laundry, also known as laundromat, as a conditional use within the NC1, NC2, which is Neighborhood Commercial 1 and Neighborhood Commercial 2, and industrial districts. And this is being introduced by Councilmember Carroll. Councilmember Carroll, if you could introduce this one more time.
Sure. So this ordinance change would just allow laundromats as a conditional use in NC1 and NC2. Right now, there are several laundromats within Clarkston, but there's no zoning district that actually allows laundromats. So if those laundromats were to close down for whatever reason, no one could open up a new laundromat anywhere in Clarkston. So I think it's somewhat illogical to not allow laundromats anywhere in Clarkston, especially considering the number of apartments we have and the number of people that no doubt would like to use laundromats that may not have washers and dryers in their apartments. And there has been some interest in putting a laundromat. A business has approached us regarding particularly putting a laundromat in the industrial district. So this text amendment will just allow laundromats as a conditional use and not as use of right. So they would still have to apply to the council and go through P&Z in order to put a laundromat in these districts. And I understand that P&Z rejected this because they're concerned about doing it before the zoning review is completed. And I do understand that concern, and I do appreciate that. And obviously, I think that we should complete the zoning review as well. And hopefully we will get a contract approved in January so we can get that process started. But in the meantime, I think this is a relatively minor amendment. I I don't think it's that controversial to allow laundromats, at least in some of the districts in Clarkston. So I would support pushing this amendment forward, and then it can be reviewed comprehensively when we go through the zoning review process next year.
Thank you, Councilmember Carroll. Do you want to add anything, Ms. Cowie, on this? Ms. Cowie? All right, we are waiting. I just want to ask you quickly, Councilmember Carroll. Go ahead, Ms. Cowie.
I'm sorry.
You have some echo in the background. I'm not sure. Ms. Cowie? Well, I think Councilmember Carroll has presented it, and we have had this discussion at the work session. So if you're having a technical difficulty, that's okay. And I just want to quickly ask you. All right, go ahead now.
I'm sorry, Mr. Vice Mayor.
That's okay.
My computer bounces off my phone sometimes. Yes, actually, I think as you stated before, Councilman Carroll did summarize the concerns that the Planning and Zoning Board did have based on the zoning rewrite. Again, you know, the locations that we currently have in the city of Clarkston for laundromats are accessible to residents currently. And another concern was the conditional use process. That is another concern of not just the amendment for the text, but for conditional use permit. That's it, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you. From my understanding, I think this is going to be conditional, so it's not automatically granting this business, this kind of business, which is laundromats, on this zoning. So it's going to be conditional, if I'm not mistaken, just like it says. So each applicant is going to have to come back to the city council and request for an approval, right, Councilmember Carroll?
That's right.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Is there any question from the council on this agenda item? All right. Seeing none, I will entertain a motion on this agenda item.
I move that we approve the text amendment to allow laundromats as a conditional use in NC1, NC2, and in the industrial zoning district.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a motion and a second by Councilmember Hassan. Any last minute discussion? All right. If there is none, I will call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is Vice Mayor Yasso. I also vote aye, and this motion has been adopted. Thank you. And then we have G6, review and vote on settlement agreement with Railroad Outdoor LLC to allow for the issuance of a sign permit to install one billboard just inside the west side of I-285 along Church Street. And I will recognize our city attorney to give us a background on this.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. This is the sign item.
Yes.
Sorry, it was breaking up just a little bit. So we had a set of four applications. One of the city's primary objections to the signs was that only one sign was allowed within 1,000 feet of another sign, and also residential considerations. We were threatened with a lawsuit, and the city council determined, or not determined, but indicated a willingness to settle for just one sign on the west side of I-285. So I have negotiated a legal document with the attorney for the applicants, and that is the item before the council now.
Thank you. Just for our public, I just want to reiterate and ask you these questions for record. So this is not an admittal of any wrongdoing by our party.
No, not at all. In fact, the document says explicitly that the city believes that its denials were appropriate, as well as its ordinance is valid, but that we're compromising on one of the 4 signs to avoid the expense of litigation.
Thank you. And you might have heard, if you were at the meeting from the beginning, when the city manager was reporting our financials, that this year's expenses, and we are surely thankful to our city attorney for all the services that he does provide in defending us. But we really have been, we've been dealing with a few legal matters, and we really felt like we need to avoid any further litigation, and this was the compromise that we felt, instead of 4 signs, just to settle with 1 sign. Is there any questions from the council to our city attorney? All right. If there is none, I will entertain a motion on this agenda item.
I move to approve the settlement agreement.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or comments?
The one thing I will say is that I think that the council was unanimous in denying these billboard signs. So I wouldn't say that, any of us have necessarily changed our minds as a result of approving the settlement agreement. But I just think, considering the cost of litigation, as well as the risk that if this went to litigation, all 4 signs could be enforced on us by the court after extensive cost of attorney's fees, makes this a prudent settlement, even though I think it's one that we'd rather not make. And the other thing I would say is that just, I do agree that we need to make sure to do our zoning review very shortly, so we don't have other issues like this in the zoning code that may come up. I do think that this is, obviously not what the city was hoping for as a result.
Mr. Vice Mayor, this is Robin. I would like to clarify, even if we had the zoning review, we would have had to have had ordinances that we could have had done over the years to not allow billboards. We believe our actual ordinance governing billboards is very sound right now. So I just wanted to clarify that this is something that could have been legislated many years ago, and really to have a zoning review would not necessarily have caught this, given the fact that our current billboard ordinance is fairly sound. So just to be clear, because I think that's a lot of the comments that have been made by residents regarding that, had we had that done, this would have been prevented. I don't believe it would have prevented this. It would not have prevented the litigation either. But that's just the reality of what we have, what the council has before them.
Thank you, Mr. Gomez, for that clarification. And I sincerely also do believe that we will certainly go ahead and do we actually tried to do it last month, but we didn't have anybody to put in for the bid, I believe. If you could give us also the status of the bidding for that would be helpful.
Ms. Cowie did mention that we have issued the request for proposals for the zoning review. Those are due on November the 20th. And
Thank
again,
you, sir.
just to clarify, in order to have prevented this under a zoning review, we would have had to have had the zoning review a few years ago, because it normally does take about a year for a zoning review. And even now during the COVID time, it might take a little bit longer, hopefully not. And then after the review is finished, then you have ordinances that need to be adopted to make changes. So really, this should have started years ago, and I believe the last time the city looked at their zoning code, it wasn't a comprehensive review by using a qualified professional firm to review it. But I could be misunderstanding that. But I believe something happened in 2014 or 2015. But it is my understanding it was not a comprehensive zoning review.
Thank you, sir. Is there any clarification that you would like to add, Mr. Quinn?
Well, I mean, not about the agenda item. As far as a zoning review versus the sign ordinance, I pretty much agree with Mr. Gomez. I don't think we want to get into a conversation of the details of all the issues that were presented, but everyone should rest assured that we're moving forward in a way that is going to protect the city council's intent when we get future applications.
Thank you, Mr. Quinn. And on the settlement agreement, I did see that the city can use the billboard for certain emergency situations. How does that work?
Yeah, that's correct. They've agreed. The billboard company has agreed that whenever the city manager gives them notice of any kind of emergency notification, that they'll put that up there and run it every so often. I can't remember, every 15 minutes, I think. And in addition to that, they indicated that they would, this isn't a part of the promise in the contract, but just what they said, that they'd be willing to run advertisements for city special events.
Thank you, sir.
There is language in the settlement agreement that the display must be accessible to city law enforcement at all times for emergency messaging information, such as Amber Alerts or emergency management information, and will remain in the advertising rotation for 48 hours or such lesser time period as requested.
Thank you, sir. Well, I think this is an unfortunate thing, but I think it's a necessary measure that the council had to take at this time, and we go ahead and I'll entertain a motion on this agenda item.
We already did.
Oh, my apologies. All right, so we have a motion and a second, and I will go ahead and call out your names. If you could say aye, nay, or abstain. Councilmember Carroll.
Aye.
Councilmember Hassan.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
And this is Vice Mayor Iyasu. I also vote aye, and this motion has been adopted. And last agenda item that I just wanted to make sure we discuss is at the work session, we did discuss several CARES Act funding related issues. The first one I want to discuss is that now that we have raised the limit to $3,000 for rental assistance program, and we have also increased the amount of rental assistance, mortgage assistance, and utility assistance from 50% to 100%. If I'm saying anything not correct, Mr. Gomez, please stop me. And another thing we discussed is retroactively, that was only for utility assistance program. which would be retroactively paying for expenses related to utilities to people who lost their jobs, and it would be retroactive to the time that they lost their income. And if they have paid it, I believe that they will receive a check in the amount of whatever it was payable to the individual. And what else? We also discussed spending for connectivity. And I mean, the amount was not really concrete, but we were talking about up to $40,000 for internet connectivity. And we also mentioned for food up to $60,000, and that's for food drives. And finally, last but not least, is going to be for after-school virtual learning assistance program that's been done by the Family Heritage Foundation in the amount of $10,000. And all these organizations that will be applying, and if whenever you prepare the requirements, Mr. Gomez, if we can advertise that the city is going to be accepting applications for organizations for food, internet connectivity, I think those two would be helpful. And but this Family Heritage Foundation requested in the amount of $10,000, and they will also have to sign the memorandum of understanding, agreement, and they will have to abide by the CARES requirements of bringing receipts, and then accordingly that they will be receiving the funding up to $10,000. Is there anything you'd like to add, Councilmember Carroll or Johnson or Ahmed Hassan? All right, if there is none, I think that's all we have for discussion. And thank you so much, everybody. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move that we adjourn.
I second that. So we have a motion and a second. Anybody, all who are in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? See none. The motion has been adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody.